Is that Chris Mackhold who I see? That's not, I don't see his face, but I see his name.
Yes, it is.
Hi, Chris.
There you go.
There you are. Hello, hello. And Crystal. I see Crystal too.
Yeah. Hi.
Good to see you. As a reminder to you Maui agents, Crystal is on Kauai and Chris Mackhold is in Kona on the Big Island. A little shout out to our other islands. And then everyone else here that you guys see, Crystal and Chris, is on Maui. We have Anne, it's on the west side, the Millers, south side, Don's on the west side. Puna, do you live on the west side? Or do you live, where do you live?
No, west side, Lahaina.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
West side, Todd's on. Todd south side, Robert. Awesome. Okay, I am going to, and Andy's on. Okay, now we got people coming on. So it's 2:01. I'm just gonna wait a couple more minutes, okay, you guys, because I do expect some more people to jump on. Grab a drink, a snack, a drink. Teresa has one, okay. Hi, Andy.
Hi, Lisa.
Oh, Andy and Andy. Andy squared. Andy Bemrose and Andy Madrid.
Oh, did Andy get on? Didn't see him. Well, hi. Hey, Andy.
David, what? David Cordero is joining us?
Aloha, Lisa.
Hi, David. How did you know about this?
Oh, I saw it. Isn't it public? I'm sorry. I thought
Oh,
it
no,
was,
you totally, no, you can totally be here. I just didn't know how you, did you get it? Did you get an email?
I saw an email from Stacy Lee. You and Stacy.
Stacy sent it out. Oh, good. Okay, good.
Yes.
I'm
Lisa,
on your email list, I think.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I'm so glad you're here. That's great.
I had no idea I was
Yeah,
signing
well,
up.
we're trying to be your Philippine KW connection, you know?
Yeah, David. So David is our Philippine KW connection.
Right.
So that's great. You should put your contact info in the chat box, David, too, and where how people can get a hold of you if they want to connect with you for referral opportunities. Okay, we're going to get Todd. I see Todd's driving. Brian's here. Welcome. And all right, we're just going to kind of get started. I'm going to start by talking about what this is about and why we do it, and kind of the format of this, which is a little bit free-flowing. I'll guide us, but ultimately I want to hear from you guys. So, you know, the concept being the Golden Nuggets panel is that when we go to a conference, you know, we love to learn and grow, and yet the most important part of the learning and growing, in addition to the process of it all, I mean, why do we go to conferences? Let me actually just start by asking you a question. Why do we attend conferences? What's the purpose to go to a conference or hear a speaker or take a workshop?
Well,
And network.
Okay, network is one reason. What's another reason?
personal growth.
Personal growth. Great. Another one?
Follow big models.
What's that? Models?
Follow big models, yeah.
Yeah, learn the models to follow to help your business. Is there sometimes a financial benefit to attending?
We can drive a fancy car like Todd Hudson.
Yes, fancy car. Anne, were you going to say something?
Oh, tax write-off, I guess, to take.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, we did do that a lot, especially when we were traveling. It was a lot more, right? At least now, you're right. That's a great business expense. Yeah, there's a benefit there financially. And a lot of the reasons that we go to is if we can take something and apply it in our business that's going to help us do more business, or learn something that's going to help us either personally grow or financially grow, that's one of the benefits, right? Now, the important thing is, and why we do things like this is, we hear things differently each of us may attend, Sam and I might attend the same session, and Sam hears something differently than I do because of where Sam's at in her life and where I'm at in mine or in my business. And so you can hear the same information. Has anybody ever heard the same information and heard it differently, or it's affected them differently at a different time in their life? So part of that is so we can always stay ahead of catching that flow of where we are and what information we need to be hearing and how it's going to impact us. And then the golden nuggets is an opportunity for us to share those things with each other where we might not have heard it the same way, even if we were there, but also so we can take that and create implementation strategies from it. So one of the questions that I'm going to ask you guys, those of you who are going to share today, and it's okay if you didn't attend and you don't have anything to share, I want you to benefit from it, is what is the implementation strategy behind it? So I'm going to give you just one thing that I learned that helped me a lot when I go to these conferences is that we listen to what, the sessions or the speaker or whatever it is, and then we write our notes, and then we create a list of the top 10 things that we learned and that we want to somehow have show up in our business or our life. And then we narrow that down to the top 3 most critical things that we're going to implement. And then we start implementing the first one right away. And you want to do that within, as quickly as 24 hours to the first week afterwards, because if you don't implement right away, chances are you're not going to do it as much. So what I want you to do here and be purposeful about is when you hear something that you want to implement, take a note and then, make your list, or those of you who have notes, I want you to make your list and then come up with your top 3 items and then implement one of those things right away. Okay, so that we're very purposeful and strategic, because that's what leads to the results. That's where we see things start to change, because otherwise we can just be learning and it helps us to grow, but we're not learning for earning's sake. We're just learning for learning's sake. And we want to be able to learn for earning's sake, where it actually has a result in our financial business, or if it's a life thing in our life that might not be money, but it's wealth in another way. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to go through anybody. I'm going to let you guys kind of volunteer initially. We're going to go with whoever wants to go first. And what I want you to share, if you did attend, and everybody else can listen, and then we'll go down the boxes of Zoom. And I'll call on each of you, and feel free to ask questions in Mastermind. It's a forum too. But what I want you to share is your top, let's just start with, since there's, your top up to 3 takeaways. So anywhere from 1 to 3 takeaways, and this should have been based on, your notes. What were your top 3 takeaways? And let me know also, or let us know if there was something that you've already implemented in your business, one thing that you're specifically, you've done or you're going to do to move you on that path based on benefiting from what you've learned, so that we can really get to the nuggets and the nuts and bolts, right? These are the golden nuggets, the best things that we've got. So go ahead. So who would like to volunteer to go first? In sharing the Millers? Okay.
I can, if you can hear me.
Oh, Todd. Okay, you want to go and then the Millers. Let's do Todd and the Millers.
Oh. So one of the things I realized is I didn't have enough operations in place. We've been always pretty lean on operations. Yep. And I think I did see a lot more benefit of having particular operation people in place to help grow out the business even stronger.
Okay, so it was a reinforcement that you're going the right track with getting operations in place, and that you need the people to do that. So so from that information, what actions will you be or are you taking for the benefit of the group towards that? What does that look like for you?
One of my agents that I have on the team right now is probably the perfect DOO for my team. But I think he would outgrow that position too fast. So I'm going to temporarily bring him in to help put systems in place. And after we do that, find the right candidate that can replace him so we can go back into sales.
Great. Okay, so then working towards getting some systems in place and then having a permanent director of operations that you're going to hire. And that's going to be a full-time team member. Love that. Thank you. Anything else? What else, Todd? Was there anything else that you want to share?
Unfortunately, I'm driving. I didn't have notes with me.
Okay, that's right.
That's the number one thing that sticks out in my mind.
Okay, thank you. If you think of anything else or anything comes up as people are kind of talking about their takeaways, we can mastermind this. The Millers, Adam and Jess.
Aloha, everybody. So
Hi.
one of the biggest things that we've been hearing about a lot lately too, and what was talked about at family reunion, was the Z word. So, they're basically, Zillow, they, Gary talking about, they are the new Expedia of real estate. So some of the things, my three biggest things is we need to, come up with even a higher level of service, as a human interaction with our customers. We need to become the ultimate concierge for our customers. And that also means tightening up our relationship with all of our vendors. So we can provide that to our customers at all times and be able to, if your buyer or seller says, hey, I need something, you should be able to, or we should be able to say, I got you, and, make it happen for them. And also, we really need to ensure that our customers know exactly what value we are providing to them, what is making us stand out the most compared to the Zillows and these other, other virtual. I know they're going to have brokerages and more humans, agents as well, but we really need to stand out at a higher level than them. So.
Yeah, that
Jessica literally knocked it out of the ballpark with
Yeah.
that answer. And I'm sorry, because that actually did remind me of something. The client experience that I provide, while I thought was good, is actually not as good. And I want to improve really hard on making it better. Jessica, dead freaking on. That's exactly right. That was number one thing I kept hearing over and over.
Yeah, we got to up our game big time. We think we're doing great. We need to be extraordinary. So.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for not cussing, Todd. I appreciate that. Very close. He was very close and he caught himself. I love it. It does that around me because he knows. And Jess, I was going to say the same thing. That was a huge, everything you said was also a big takeaway for me. I think everybody should write that down. If you didn't, what she just said about the things that you want to work on in your business, this goes for all of us, is really the level of service. Because when she's talking about Zillow, the idea being that one of the only ways we can, and I'm just going to say, combat any technology company or vendor or that has the ability to lure our clients away with information or data or services that they're providing. The more we can be that resource where they come to us first, right? It's how do we keep that person in our ecosystem? And one of the ways that's so critical is providing that higher level of customer service, knowing the value that you provide. I mean, it was really right on. That was a really great, concise way to share that. And why it's so important and timely right now, right? We did kind of have a wake-up call about that, and how important that is and what we're not doing now, and that we really need to focus on. The additional thing I'll add to that is that it's not just when they're doing a transaction. This is so important. I cannot stress this enough, you guys. We tend to get caught up in, well, I'm going to work with the people that are ready to buy now, and those are the people I'm going to communicate with because they're hot, they're the low-hanging fruit, I got to show them property now, whatever it is. And so we might provide a decent or high level of customer service for them when we're in a transaction with them. And then what happens after the transaction, right? Where is that level of service? How are we a resource for them? What happens before the transaction, pre-transaction? And when is our relationship with them longer? When do we have more of an opportunity to provide value? Is it during that 90 days? Or is it during how many years, you guys, really? How many years are we in relationship with somebody in between transactions?
Could be a long time.
A long time. 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years?
And another thing that helps me with that is I don't relate to the transaction as a deal, or, oh, look, I got a new deal. No, it's, I get to help another person. I get to keep helping that person forever. You know, it doesn't end when they get the keys.
Yeah.
You know,
Some people don't, who was it? I heard one of the agents say that they don't refer to their, what was it? It was something to do with what they call their clients. So they have like, past clients. This was great. I loved this. Somebody said they don't use the term past clients. They don't even call anybody a past client. They're a client. So they're never, so if you start to think about your people that way, that they're never a past anything, they are your people, and you're always in that communication flow with them. I loved that they said, we don't even say past clients. That doesn't exist for us. Everybody's a client. So I loved that. That was a good, thank you for that. Very, very good, you guys. Okay, what else? Yes.
Hey, Lisa,
Robert.
one thing that kind of ties into the Adam and Jessica thing is a statement that I heard them say: tomorrow's business is way more valuable than just today's business.
Mhm.
Today's business is ancillary. Focus on tomorrow's business, because the big guys, they're not coming after the today's business. They're coming after tomorrow's business.
Yeah.
And that's way more valuable.
Yeah,
right?
I love that.
And the
That's
one
great.
who controls the transaction controls the commission.
Yeah, so that, you're right. That was another thing, is they said, you know, the one who controls the lead controls the business. Like, essentially, we always talk about that, how important it is to control the lead. And actually, it's not even leads, it's listings, right? Like, control the listing, because if you control the listing, you own the business. It is,
Right.
you know, you control you control everything, right? But you control the lead, you control the business. But what they did, Robert, just to add on what you said, is differentiated between controlling the lead and the transaction. So controlling the lead controls the business, but just because you're controlling the business doesn't mean, or you're controlling the lead, doesn't mean you're controlling the commission and the amount of money you earn, because they said you have to control the transaction. And this was the whole thing about some of the companies that are offering, you know, and this was the commentary to where Zillow's going and what they're doing, is that they're now shifting gears and they're focusing away from where they used to work on controlling the lead, which was what they were selling to us as agents. They've shifted away from that. And now it's about, well, we don't really necessarily care so much about that lead anymore. We'll give leads to agents if they pay for them, but we want to grab them in the transaction, because then we can control the amount of money that happens and who gets paid. So it's very important to be able to have things in place that allow you to do both. Thank you for that. That was great, Robert. Anything else, Robert?
There was another one that caught my attention. It was great coaches are rarely great players. Different skill sets. Players are masters of their game. Coaches are masters of the game. I thought that was kind of a cool statement. Yeah.
Yeah, looking at the big picture and the overview and systems and models, because the agents are focused on doing the business at that time. Like, you guys are really good at having those conversations with buyers and sellers. What I take away from that, Robert, is why it's so important to have a coach. Because
Exactly.
it's kind of like the forest, what's that terminology about seeing the forest for the trees, or through the tree, or whatever.
Can't see the forest for the trees.
Yeah. Trees, right? Having that perspective and understanding how it's all fitting together for you. It's the difference of being able to see that vision of working on the business, just rather than in the business, right?
Yeah.
Good job. Yes, good coaching. Chris.
Yeah, Lisa, I had a couple things that go right along with what we're talking about right now.
Yes.
A couple takeaways were, one of the things that I heard was good service is the best marketing tool. And, you know, that's the word of mouth thing. I mean, that's great, right? I mean, if you give people great service, they talk. And I think that'll really help us all out going forward. And then the other thing in the smart business, smart database, which database I really think is an important thing in our business, is the comment was, don't chase today's dollars. There's a thing called the today trap. So that relationship that you create and that follow up with your database that you continue to grow on will build wealth going forward, as opposed to just going for that quick kill, you know, on the people that want to buy right now. So those are really important things. And then another thing was, I was intrigued by Legacy, the company that does the relationships with builders. I think with as low as the inventory is right now across the country, new construction is going to be a big tool for everybody. And talk about the relationship. I mean, signing a contract on a home that still needs to be built really that's just the beginning. I mean, you're married to those folks for a long time. I mean, you're going to take a lot of questions. You're going to have to be the moderator between the buyer and the developer, because they're going to want to make changes.
Yes.
So it's really important, again, to give that service level, and everything that I'm hearing so far really goes along with those ideas. So thank you.
That's great. Yeah, I love that. Tomorrow, and that's partially tomorrow's business too. The projects, that was one of my takeaways too, as far as home starts. Gary talked about it, and just and we've been working on that for a while, right, as the developer relationship. And Chris, because pretty much all you sold before you just started your resale business was all projects, right? So it's that partially also is tomorrow's business. And I love what you said. I love the good service is the best marketing tool. And just want to add to the don't chase today's dollars. Tomorrow's, the tomorrow business that we talk about is the wealth building. And I want to explain what that means, like what I hear from that, and tell me if you guys hear anything different. But if you're chasing today's dollars, you're going to always be chasing today's dollars. It's a constant, it's like being on a hamster wheel. You're just going to constantly be having to do the same work over and over and over and over and over and over again. Whereas you chase tomorrow's dollars and business, that is what you said, wealth build, right? Where it just starts to come to you. You just have the business. It's when you start to build those things, then you don't even actually have to chase anything anymore, because if you do a great job in getting that tomorrow's business, you're constantly going to have it. Does that make sense? That you're not having to do that hamster wheel. You're setting up something that's going to provide you business for life. And I had a top agent in our Northern California, Hawaii region talk about this in our mastermind group there too, who's really strong on getting referrals from her sphere. Excellent. Thank you for that contribution. Who's next?
I'll go if nobody wants to go. So what I have to talk about kind of ties in with both Zillow and what the Millers were talking about, and really kind of everything here. And if you don't know who Tony Giordano is, he's been to Maui a few times, and he's kind of the social media guy. I know a few of the people on this Zoom call are big into social media like we are, like the Millers are. And one of the great things about Family Reunion, the way that we're doing it now versus being in person, is you get to watch these different talks over and over. So we've watched some of them multiple times. And one of the ones that, is making a big difference in me, and, everybody's got their own things that they're looking for, but the design your digital consumer experience strategy. So one of the things that Tony Giordano says is, in the past, you went to the mall and that's where people were, or you went to a store and that's where people were, or you went to a park and that's where people were. But people are online now all the time. So if you're not online, you're not where the people are. So designing that digital strategy to attract people can pay huge benefits. I mean, I know the Millers like this too. We attract people to us now. Tammy and I hardly ever do any cold call. Well, we don't do any cold calling, but we also don't do hardly any outgoing calls to people we don't know. We get enough business coming in now just from social media because of the digital experience. So watching that and learning how to even enhance that even more as all this technology gets easier and easier, I thought that was huge. Of course, everybody's at a different point in life. The other thing that we were focusing on were the 2 wealth building segments, the 9 points wealth building plan and the 7 traps to financial wealth. We watched both of those multiple times. And, when you're in business long enough, you hear a lot of stuff. And what's great is when you hear it again in maybe a little bit of a twist, and then it connects. You realize, oh, I heard that before, but I didn't understand it before. You weren't ready to hear it. So getting to hear some of those wealth building strategies just further cemented it. And I like the way that Gary and what's the other guy's name that was talking with him? I can't think of his name off the top of my head. Jay. Yeah, Jay Abrams. the way that they talked about it put a different twist on it that made a big difference to us.
Great, Dawn. I love that. And look at your call Dawn sign with your, oh, great. So I see the Millers are raising their hand. That's actually a good idea. If you guys know how to raise your hand, if you want to go next, that will help me because I have to go back and forth to the different screens. So I'm going to call on Adam and Jess again to chime in, and then I'm going to look for a hand raise to go to the next person. If you don't know how to raise, if you go to raise your hand, I'm just going to tell you guys how to do that. If you hit the participant, maybe there's another way to do it. Oh, reactions.
Reactions.
If you go to reactions at the bottom of the page, you'll see raise hand. And then if you raise hand, I'll call on you in whatever order I get to you guys. But that way I know that you want to do your takeaways. So Millers.
Yeah, I wanted to touch base what everyone was talking about earlier about Zillow. First of all, thank you to Gary who just addressed it right off the get-go. No holds bar. But my takeaway from that one was 217 million people are on Zillow, yet they still have made the decision to work belly to belly with real estate agents. So that forces all of us to really up our customer service game so that we are offering them unique insights, unique access, unique services. So that was kind of my big aha and big takeaway. I have not implemented it as of yet, but those are the three things going, okay, how can we offer those three things?
That's great, Adam. Yeah. Thank you.
And then one more, if I can chime on, because this has been a struggle. It was a struggle when we were in Florida. It took me 3 years to get it. And I'm not going to let it take 3 years. I'm at 2 years. I'm going to address it here too. And that was, you can't be everything to all, you can't be all things to all people. And that took me a long time in Florida, because we were in a massive area, 19 counties. I think it's the largest multiple listing service in the country. So first of all, we had to dwindle it into our 2 closest counties, and then realize that I could not be the expert with beachfront properties and equestrian properties and first-time home buyers and luxury buyers, and go on and on and on, until we found our niche, which at that time were equestrian properties and acreage properties. And even though we sold a lot of other properties, once I started to focus in on the one thing, that's when our business boomed.
So that's great. So you're talking about, specialization, like and what service you're providing, and to who is your client, your ideal client.
It's niching down. Yeah. So you can't, I mean, especially on an island, you think, I can just help everybody. You want a house in Hana? Sure, I'll help you. You need a luxury place in Kapalua? Sure, I can help you. It doesn't mean that I can't. However, from the get-go, you got to be an expert at something first.
And even other islands too. I mean, I get it. We're licensed in the entire state of Hawaii. Do I want to fly over to another island every time, or partner up with somebody on that other island? Because we should be able to reach our customer, I believe, like right now, if need be. And I understand, there's agents that work all the islands and it's easy for them to access it all. But being able to narrow it down and being the actual local market expert on the one thing you are the expert at in the area.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. I mean, I think you filter it with 2 questions. One is what it makes the most sense for your business, like Adam was talking about. And then the second question, which is the most important question of all, especially with what we're talking about, is what's in the best interest of the client? What's in the best interest, what am I doing? How can they get the highest level of customer service? I'm not saying it isn't anytime. I'm saying it's rarely for you to fly over to another island. It does happen. There are unique situations, but that's my 2 cents there on that one. Partnering is a good idea. Mm-hmm. So thank you though. That was good insight. Nicole.
Hi there. So just kind of piggybacking on what Jessica and Adam were saying, hyper local and hyper personalized. That's what it's all about. And honestly, that's the direction I think we all need to realize. So it's so funny, but when you start reading books about successful businesses, it's usually the businesses that know their market so refined that people are drawn to. And I think there's this sense that if we don't cater to everyone, we're excluding. Yet if we know our market and we're hyper local and hyper personalized, we attract other people to trust us as well. And that's such a big piece. So definitely that's going to be a big thing for myself. As coach doing productivity coaching, I'm always looking for fabulous lines and scripts. And one thing someone said that I just grabbed onto, I thought it was amazing. What she would say to her clients is, what is your experience with X? What do let them tell you their experience. And then if they don't have an experience, they're open to your knowledge versus just shoving our knowledge down people's throats. I just thought that was awesome. And I've really been encouraging the coaching agents to use that. What is your experience with buying in a hot seller's market, right? Find out what people know, ask great questions. That's so much of our job. And then I always look for a book that I'm going to read. And so I've already started reading Good to Great. And Gary mentioned it on like the first day, and I'm like so in love with that. If you guys haven't read it, oh my gosh, fantastic. So yeah, pretty cool. That was a great family reunion. I really enjoyed a lot of pieces. I only have 20 nuggets, but I'm just giving you 3.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll come back if we have more time. Andy, I will call on you 1 second. I just wanted to expand on what Nicole was talking about with hyperlocal. Yeah, so and I just want to explain for those of you who haven't maybe been with KW for a while or are within their company or not aware. So when we talk about hyperlocal and hyperlocal marketing, and this is from data that has been compiled by by Google, by Facebook, by all of the artificial intelligence that KW has been involved with Command to see what consumers want. And I mean, it's not surprising, but it was never any focus that I ever learned in real estate since I had been licensed, was the importance of that hyper-local awareness as a specialist, as an agent, and how the community, like we know community is important, but how important, to what degree it is to people when they're looking for a place to buy, for example, it's critical. Like, so to really figure out how you become, again, the niche, the local market expert, like how well you know your product, your community, and providing those resources on your website, talking about like, right, how valuable it is now, the websites we have and the way that you can do the landing pages, or a market snapshot where it talks about the community. And that, people ask me sometimes, because I show agents our product, like with Command, and sometimes if they're with another company, they're like, why do you have the listings below, right? If they're coming on this to search for property, why does it talk about, why do you have stuff about the community? Why is this stuff first, the community related information? And my answer is, well, because based on the data, and dealing with consumers and what Google tells us and artificial intelligence, this is what they care about first. This is actually what they're looking for and what they want and need. And then, they'll look at the listings and the data information that most agents provide. So that community information and the hyperlocal marketing and your experience within the community as a resource, so important. Andy, you're up next. Where'd you go? Andy Bemrose. And then Andy Madrid, if you want to go ahead and see your.
I'm here.
Andy, there you are.
Very, very hard to pick out even 10. It just went on and on. But having been a coach and working with Nicole and these new agents, and then now taking on a new role in my office, a lot of things in the vision speak really, really sunk in. And one of my very first is my success is defined by the success of my people. And, I think I've always known that, but it just kind of hit me in the head. And one of the things that I'm looking for is to get better support in the office so that I can be out supporting my people. But I don't have to have the answers. I just need to know the right questions. Being fairly new to Keller Williams, I don't have all the answers, but I don't have to when I'm working with my people. I can always find them out later. So. And then last but not least was on the financial wealth building is knowing our numbers, knowing what our number is to be happy, comfortable, and free. But that was
knowing what our numbers is. What was that last one?
Knowing what our number is to be happy, comfortable, and free.
Yeah, our financial number, or yes, I love that. Yeah, what is that number? What you focus on expands. That was great. Yeah, the asking the right questions, or you don't have to know all the answers, you just have to know the questions. And the focus that a lot of people put on the importance of questions was so critical. And just as agents, right, for you guys, when you do listing presentations and buyer consultations, the jazz, I mean, your how you can provide customer service is great and it's important. The jazz of what you do, how many properties you've sold, how, you know, anything about you is not nearly as important to anybody. And frankly, a lot of people don't care about it. Your consumers and people that you meet with, you have to ask questions. I mean, if you're not getting the listing or the buyer, it's probably because you didn't ask enough questions. So, so important. Thank you for reminding us of that, Andy. Andy Madrid, did you have something? Did you want to say something? Sorry, I muted you. You got to unmute yourself.
Actually, being new to Keller Williams, but not in real estate, it was definitely like drinking from a fire hose between Family Reunion and Ignite. But I mean, a couple of things that I got out of it was, I mean, mindset is huge, because if you're not in the right mindset, you know, that affects the way you interact with people. It affects it's critical to your success, and it also affects, you know, your transactions. A segment that I watched in had to watch a recorded one because I think I was in Ignite, it was in a luxury segment, and Daniel Zia spoke. I've known Daniel for a number of years. I've been on the other side of a transaction with him. We were both in the Montecito market, and I sort of fell into the luxury segment just because it was Montecito. But for me, it was just, you know, kind of my big takeaway. And what I'm doing now is just working on heightening my level of service. Quite honestly, in the real estate market, whether it's in Hawaii or California or Oregon, where I sold before as well, the bar is pretty low. You know? So I think doing just a couple of extra things about you know, delivering just a higher level of service, even if you're not in a luxury market, if you're not selling a luxury price point, you can still deliver a luxury experience to those first-time home buyers that will be wowed by your the way you present yourself and the way in your professionalism, and keeping them informed in the communication, and being confident in the knowledge you're providing, and being able to speak to the value, which sort of drives away some of that Zillow stuff. You know, having a one-to-one you know, relationship with your clients as opposed to something more virtual. And all of a sudden, I had a brain fade.
No, that's okay. That's great. I think the delivering, I love what you said about delivering a luxury experience. So even if the property is not luxury, or you're not doing something that's luxury, you're able to still deliver that high value of that experience. So what I would ask you and anybody to think about that's been talking about increasing their level of customer service, client care, is what is that? What is one thing that you can do that you can actually integrate into what you're doing?
Follow through, and for me, it's follow through and communication.
Okay.
You know, just extra mile, not making assumptions about what they know. You know, asking, like Nicola said, asking great questions, and then communicating back to them what they've said, so they understand that you understand and take to heart what they need from a top-notch real estate agent.
Great. Awesome. Thank you, Andy. So I'm just looking at the notes. I'm just catching up on the chat box. Oh, so Crystal, yeah, when we were talking about working with agents from on other islands, and not, you know, where it doesn't sometimes behoove the client to fly over. She was saying sometimes you don't know the nuances like someone who lives there. Yes. And then, oh, Good to Great was the book. Yeah. So, okay, who is next that has not gone? Give me a shout out or raise your hand, or like your physical hand, or raise your hand from the bottom of the chat that hasn't talked about their takeaways yet. I'm going to start calling on you guys.
I can go.
Oh, okay, Sam, then Teresa.
So since I'm on, new, definitely. What I took away was totally different, right? So the main thing for me was to get my database in order, and that's huge. Like that is where my time needs to be spent. And also, of course, lead generate. And I need to do one thing and implement it now. So that's lead generate, do my database. So I've been working on that, and it's not just putting people in, but if I don't have a phone number, go back and say, hey, can I get your phone number? So that my database, the health of it is going to be high. And as far as the wealth building, the quote that I liked from Gary, well, I don't know if it's a quote, but he basically said that investment is not risky. He took that from Warren, right? And that it's just math. So what I got from it is that it's really simple, and it shouldn't be something that's tricky. And if the numbers don't add up, then you obviously don't invest in it. And if it does, then it's a simple answer. So yeah.
That's great. I love that, Sam. Yeah, that was a big one for me too. I love that he said that it's not risky. And if you do your homework and you have enough information, he said it's risky when it's speculation. It's risky when you don't know and you don't have all the information, or it's not something you're familiar with. So it isn't risky if you have the information and you know enough to make an educated decision about it. It's just like anything else. So I thank you for that. That was great. Okay, next is Teresa.
Hello. Well,
Hello.
like Andy had said that and I think, both Andys said that, it's like drinking from a fire hose. So yeah, though I'm not a new agent, as an agent who's just putting her business forward this year, really focusing on it was a lot, and there was so many good things. I think what kicked it off for me was I had been focusing on trying to be that expert, and being disappointed that I couldn't retain the information fast enough. And that's been a frustration. And so when Gary was talking in the vision speech about choosing your goal, it chooses your destiny. And then he followed a little later that who you're in business with is your vote for what your future looks like. That had a lot of meaning for me. And then later he was talking about the word onward. And it's like, well, what does that look like? And so as I thought on it and I listened to everybody, I decided, well, I needed a word for the year too. So I picked the word action. And it followed with where Chris and Dan, I don't know if you got to watch their inspiration thing, but he has Down syndrome, and his dad told him, if you can just be 1% better than you were yesterday, right? And so it all applied for me, is that you have to take the action in order to get the results you want. You need to show up and take action. It doesn't have to be perfect. You just need to take it. So that was a really big thing. And then for implementation, I was inspired by the Social Equity Task Force. I've never felt more prouder of a company in my entire life than I did when they were talking about social equity and how people, when the Fair Housing Act came into being 50 years ago, that there's less people of color that own houses today in comparison to what it was like at the time that the act was enacted. So that really spoke to me, and I was like, well, what can I do in our community to be able to help people mitigate this kind of terrain. So I started putting together a few ideas, and I'm still sorting it out. I've got a lot of people to talk to, but between the taking action and the getting involved, I got a lot of inspiration.
Awesome, Teresa, thank you for sharing. So a couple of things I'm putting in the chat box. You may want to read, if you guys like that 1% idea, the book Atomic Habits by James Clear is about that principle of getting 1% better every day. And then the other thing is, Teresa, for you, is you should reach out to Liza Rivera, who is our social equity task force champion ambassador for the office. So I'm putting her name in there. She's in our office, and you can join you should join the social equity task force. We have one for the office. That would be great. Okay, so Cheryl, I think Cheryl, you're next, then Sam Sinclair, the other Sam.
Okay, yeah, like everybody's saying, there is so much to learn, so much to share, so much happening. I just have a little picture in my head of some comments that Gary Keller made, and being just in part of Ignite, and it's, you know, lead gen, number one. And how important is lead gen if Gary Keller is late to his own birthday party because it's his lead gen hour, and he won't, everybody in the office is waiting for him, and he's sorry, see you in an hour. And it's, so how important is it if the head of the company is doing that and doesn't let a day go by that he doesn't do it, no matter what's going on? That's what's most important. And then he was sharing how when he first got started in real estate, you know, he had a system of cards, and kind of like recipe cards, and that's where he had his contact information all in this card file, and he'd physically take them and move them. You know, he had tabs on one side with the months of when he had to make his phone calls to those people next, his ticklers, his tabs, and he'd pick the card up, call them, and then file it to where he had to get in touch with them next. I'm like, wow, that's where command was born. And he implemented those things now in you know, using the best tech that he can. So just it's so wonderful to hear from him, as well as all the other people in there. But just the roots of how this all got started, I found just super fun and interesting to hear.
That's great. I love those. So just a couple of things to recap, and I want to add to when we talk about lead gen, I mean, and this goes back to kind of what Andy Madrid said about mindset, right? Everything, 90% is mindset. So what I want to challenge you guys to do, because I know it can be difficult for some of you to set aside time to make those conversations happen, and you are going to have to, in your own mind, figure out the why behind what you're doing. It's not just it is monotonous, and this business, if you really want to be a great agent and make a lot of money, it's boring. I mean, it can be. It's an exciting thing. Every transaction is different, but I mean, the process of the systems and doing the activities can be not super sexy, so people don't like to do them. But what I want to say is, so when you think about calling and talking to people and having those conversations, first of all, sometimes people think lead gen and they kind of go, you know, they're taken aback by that. So I've heard a lot of different things that people have done with it that I like, which is, first of all, their conversations. It's really just about having conversations with people, whatever that is. There could be any way you do it to make it happen, but you just got to talk to people. Otherwise you're not selling, you know, you're not helping anybody, including yourself or clients. So Colette likes to call, you know, because some people call it prospecting. She likes to call it prospering. So the idea is you're spending time prospering and you're blocking that out. Other people have said, you know, if you have the mindset of, okay, who am I going to get to help today? Right? These conversations are going to lead me. I'm doing this because I love helping people. And I need to have the conversations to find the people that really need my services today and I could really help. Who is that? Right? So that's the fun part of it. So it's just a matter of making that happen. And then, yeah, Gary's hardcore. I mean, Gary's like hardcore to protecting his calendar. So those are good lessons to learn as well. And he's a billionaire. So not that everybody wants to be a billionaire. However, somebody was talking about what's your number? What is your number? And work backwards from there. And it will happen if you're having those conversations. Okay, who is, oh, and then Sam Sinclair, is she still on?
Hi there. Yeah.
Hi, Sam.
So most of mine have already been said, but a couple that I really jumped out at me are learn how to overcome objections. You can't overcome the objections, you can't close the sale. And I think that's pretty clear. The biggest one for me has already been mentioned, but it's about the boom in new construction in the next 3 to 5 years, because we know that if he who has the listings wins. And so if I was really trying to do something huge with my business, I'd be working on trying to do a project or something. In my not agent role, the time block reminders was really good. And I started doing it at home too. And it's really like amazing. It's amazing how well it works.
Yeah, time blocking works, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to go back to, do you have anything else, Sam? Those are good.
No.
Okay, so just going back to what Sam was saying about home starts and new construction and developers, I would be asking every single person that I talk to when you're talking to people in conversation of anything in general, who they know that is a developer. And I would not even say just locally. I would just say, who do you know that, do you know anybody that's in the development business? Do you know anybody that develops property or works for a development company, and just start to build and that network. And you may find that you have those circles of people in common. And because the opportunity is huge, and not just here. I mean, if you think about, on Maui or on the Big Island or Kauai, whatever, in Hawaii, we might have limited opportunities. Although there are some, I will tell you, there's a lot, there's quite a few out there now. But, if somebody else already has that relationship or has it, it would be anywhere, because I've seen a lot of agents, a couple of our agents I've helped connect with either finance guys for projects or developers themselves or projects themselves in other states. And they've been able to refer the business to an agent in that area. And this also goes for larger commercial, like hotel sales and stuff like that, the big stuff that Sam is talking about, because that is the great thing to get. So imagine if you had those conversations, somebody said, well, I know somebody who works in Colorado that develops property, or Utah or whatever. And would you mind making an introduction? I'd love to connect with them, because I'm building a development network, and I can sometimes connect people. Like, right, I'm looking at resources or providing resources for developers. And then you talk to that person, and maybe they're not working with an agent and they're looking at doing a project. And then you say, well, I have a great person that I can connect you with that can help with that project. And now you refer a huge community or project in another state that you get a referral fee from on every transaction, on every unit that closes. So just to make it part of that conversation, because that is going to be, it's one of the big areas of opportunity always. However, right now, especially, because do we think that inventory is tight in other parts of the country, not just Hawaii? It's incredibly tight. Incredibly tight. Now, will it open up again as things shift? Maybe the market shift, maybe some of those, people that aren't paying their mortgage, we start to open up some distressed property. Yes, and we're still going to see a big push in people trying to get projects and developments through, because of the lack of inventory in general. Most people are behind anyway, even if they do open up some resale inventory. So just encourage you. I mean, and those of you who have those relationships, just talk to those people, put them on your call list. So great suggestion, Sam. And let's capture some of that. Let's capture some of that business. Okay, who is next that has not shared their takeaways yet? Okay, while we're waiting for somebody to raise their hand or chime in, I'm going to share a couple of things that I had. A lot of what you guys said, of course, I just get excited about and reiterate, like, so good. There were so many. Yes, it's like drinking from a fire hose, and yet the water that actually you catch in your mouth is like tastes pretty good. Okay, so I loved, there was a script champion. Who saw the script off? Okay, some of you guys. So, you know, I mean, we think about, like, I've got to tell you, and probably this is my limiting belief with you guys too. I mean, I love scripts. Don't get me wrong. You know, my background is in theater. Like, I would never, as an actor, go on a stage and not know my lines. Like, that would be a disaster. So I'm all for scripts. Although I wasn't really too excited about like the script off thing. I was like, oh, okay, maybe like I'll just watch it because it's a competition and it'll be fun to see who wins. And there was some really good stuff in that. And what I loved about it as a general takeaway, which so I would encourage you to watch it if you missed it, the script off or script choose your script champion, is the fluidity and ease and expertise of how they, and what do you call it, like refinement of how they spoke. Now they were doing it for show a little bit for us. You could see though, in with a client, it's how smooth, how good they are at it and how beneficial it could be to get somebody where they want to go. And to the point where I was like, I'm an agent and I would hire that person to sell my house. You know what I mean? Like I was just blown away. So a couple of the things that I loved was Cody Gibson said, who's great, right? He made a comment. This wasn't in the script, but he mentioned it as one of the things he said was, it's not about how you want to do business as the agent. It's about what your consumers want, right? It's not about how you want to do business. It's about what your consumers want. So how do we understand what our consumers want, first of all? So how do we know what our consumers want?
You got to ask.
Ask them, right? So maybe it's an opportunity to reach out in a survey. Like it gave me some great ideas. How would I find out what my consumers want? That is also a good touch and relationship builder for them. Well, I could call them and I could ask them. I could come up with survey questions and call through my database and start to ask them so they know I'm working to provide a higher level of service for them that's customized. I could send out a survey monkey to my whole database and just ask 3 questions that tell me what they want or how I can serve them better in 2021. So it gave me some really good ideas about how to find out what they want. And also as a reminder that it's not about us. And the more that we not just ask them questions all the time, which is important, but that every decision we make about what we're implementing in our business is for the benefit of them. We will benefit too if we serve them, right? If we make sure that everything that we talk about, so when we're business planning, we're creating systems, we're hiring, director of ops, like Todd said, whatever that is, it's to provide a better level of service for them. Yes, it helps us too, and we need to get our back end organized and stuff to keep us organized, but ultimately just think about that. So I liked that. He also had a great script, which was with a listing presentation. And he said the person was talking about either waiting or I think waiting the list was, they were waiting the list and it was an objection handler. And he said the power your house has in terms of your wealth or creating wealth. And then he said something like, he was talking so fast, so I didn't get all of it, but it was like something to the effect of having no regrets on cashing your chips in. And then he said, you're holding a lottery ticket that has already struck. I mean, I was like, right now, that script, you're holding a lottery ticket that has already struck. Is that a good script for right now, where we're at in price and equity for a lot of these people? Oh, I love that. Yeah, Jessica.
Hey, Lisa. So right after that, I posted on Facebook because, in Hawaii, we don't have a lottery. I said, and we need houses to sell. Your house could basically be like hitting the jackpot in so many words. However, I wrote that, at this time with it being such a, high sellers market, it's like winning the lottery and, holding that golden ticket.
So yeah, it gets them to see it in a different way. Wow, I'm holding a lottery ticket and I could cash it in right now. And is that always going to be the case? Now, the other thing that somebody talked about, and I want to say like the part that might follow is that they may not have somewhere to go, right? So they may want to sell and cash in and yet they don't have a place to move to because inventory is low. So you have the same problem with the buyer. So Gary talked about this and he's mentioned it before. Is the idea of bridge loans coming back and being more popular again, or educating ourselves and our clients about the possibility to get a bridge loan, because that used to be a big tool that we could use the last time we went through this and the time before when we went through this market cycle. So don't forget. And he mentioned there's a company, did you guys write it down, that KW works with, that he said to contact regarding their bridge loan program? I have it written down in my notes somewhere, so I'll see if I can find it. In any case, we can see, I don't know if local, if you guys have any resources of lenders that are doing bridge loans here, that
Looks
would be
like Dawn does.
Dawn
Harris.
Yeah, so I called, I can't remember the name of the company, but I called them, it's Tim Hiles Group.
Oh, yeah, I think that might have been the one he mentioned.
Yeah, right now they're only offered in a few cities, mostly in Texas. And I think there are 1 or 2 other states, so they're not able to do it in Hawaii yet, because that was a fantastic idea.
Yeah, so I think that's going to start to come back, or somebody will see that opportunity, and there may be somebody other than Tim Hiles Group. So we could start looking for a resource like that, and imagine how many more listings we could take if we had that solution for them to be able to have that that expense or that covered, or where then they can buy their house later when they find one, right? So yeah, that was one thing I wanted to mention. He also said, he was talking about scripts in general, and he said if you care about people and are authentic, you'll sound that way when you learn these objection handlers and scripts. If you are cheesy, you'll sound that way. So it's really about care about people and being authentic, and having what you say come from that. Okay. Emily, okay, so hang on a second. I'm just looking in here. Sellers want buyers, buyers want houses. Yes, Michelle. And then Emily, we do bridge loans as PPM, a purchase. So you're talking about as you mean like a seller financing for purchase money mortgage with high equity. Is that what you're saying, Emily? Where are you? I'm looking for you to hang on. I see you put hyped in the chat box. Can you chat with us? Oh, yes. Okay. So you'll do a bridge loan. So you're saying you work with the seller. Now, I don't know your company, so I don't know. You're saying that as an agent, you work with the seller to create their own bridge loan and seller financing for the no, so that wouldn't make sense. So they do their own. You may have to explain what you mean by that. With other people to finance a bridge loan for somebody else. I'm not sure. Okay, I know you might not be able to talk right now, so we might have to talk about that offline a little bit. And
Emily just signed on, and she has been buying and selling houses herself with her husband for years, and they
so
did
you as a seller.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So that's what I'm trying to understand. So you create your own.
Yes.
With the equity in your property, basically create your own bridge loan. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. So maybe we should talk more about the logistics of that. I'd be interested, and that could be a strategy depending on how you have that structured, based on the percentage of equity and whatever time frame, so terms and what that looks like. Let's talk about that and share with me what you're doing, if you don't mind, and then that might be something that we can pitch to sellers that follow that have criteria that would match enough equity in their property for that.
We have properties with lots of equity, some that are paid off,
okay.
And it allows us to offer lending to people and carry a bridge loan with a high down. So we get a good substantial 20-30% down. And then we'll carry it for a year, maybe 3, and then it has a balloon on it.
Okay, so you're doing this, so you're using your equity in your property to create a bridge loan for somebody else, correct?
For someone who wants to buy my property.
Got it. Okay.
Not as a selling agent, but as a seller. I actually am brand new to being an agent, but I've been buying and selling. So I'm in the process of downsizing 5 properties right now.
Okay.
We just closed on one. I'm setting up a servicing agent, so I don't have to deal with any of the amortization, any of the tax reports.
So you're
These
just
people
doing
do it all.
You're saying you're just doing a purchase money mortgage, pretty much, right? You're doing seller financing. You're doing a purchase money mortgage for your buyers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Short
Okay.
term.
So let's talk about that a little bit. So what you're talking about is, which is actually another good way for them to capitalize if they do have equity in the property and they are selling it. We were talking a little bit more about if they need to, if the seller is selling and they have to find a property to buy, another property to buy. But as far as seller financing, that's another good option or tool. They wouldn't necessarily have to do that right now because of the demand that we see in the market. However, it would allow them an opportunity for cash flow. And so that would be a good thing to say, hey, maybe talk to your financial person about what that would look like if you were to seller finance. That's always a good potential solution. Thank you for that. Okay, a couple other things. Let me just go to just a general thing that Gary had talked about, and that it's great that we're talking about changing things in our business, creating systems and a higher level of customer service. He said when there's more disruption in our industry and more venture capital out there, which right now there's more than ever, like I think ever in the history of ever, it's more important to focus on your business, right? So what we're doing in our business that's helping to assure that we are getting the client and not just be out there selling and neglect how we're, what we're providing. Keith, this was more regarding Command and the benefits of Command and the Facebook lead program. It was Keith Weiss, the Facebook director of industry, that was interviewed. He was talking about the benefits of utilizing artificial intelligence and technology in our business in general. And he said the rate at which I get smarter on my own, meaning if when you're not utilizing artificial intelligence and technology, the rate at which I get smarter on my own is much slower than doing it through Command with KW, because the platform allows the artificial intelligence to work faster because so many people are doing it. And he said the best machine learning is something you shouldn't see, which I think is part of the reason that Gary's taking a step back in doing the labs with the agents building Command. He's just stabilizing it because he wants it to be a little bit more fluid and less obvious and wants it to just go a little bit smoother. So, and then the idea that the Facebook product with KW had 2.6 million leads that have converted. And the idea is now they have because those 2.6 million leads converted, they have 2.6 million more data points to find the next lead. So they're continually improving and getting better. That was a big takeaway I had, and they're doing it very quickly. So the Facebook ads I ran 6 months ago are going to look different than the Facebook ads I'm running today in terms of the effectiveness and the quality and the conversion. So I loved that keeps getting better and cheaper for us right now being $1.91 a lead. There was one agent that mentioned something she was talking about. This was Anna Kalinsky. I don't know if you guys saw this in Atlanta, Georgia. And she was talking about what does the consumer experience mean? And she's really good at doing everything we're talking about in regard to creating consumer experience and being in touch with these people at any point, whether it's pre-transaction, during transaction, or post-transaction. And she said, our job, she's kind of talking about when our job and our relationship should start with them. And she said, it's not about when we know that it's not about when we know that the consumer exists. It's about when the consumer knows we exist. And what I took away from that is, she said, the moment that they know we exist is when the consumer experience begins. So when you guys are thinking about upping your consumer experience or your client care, think about when does that person know that you exist versus when you know they do. Does that make sense? So in marketing, if you have stuff that's out there, so she's like website, and I don't know what she actually does because I didn't look at her website, but I would guess that her website probably includes hyper local information, being a resource for them, and other types of things that she could do to provide things for them, not just buying and selling real estate. So she says, be available, be an available resource for them, not just when they're buying or selling. We know that people do business with people they like. So what can you do to be liked more? And she said, it's not just that they already know you, because new leads or referrals don't know you right away. And then she also mentioned, and somebody was talking about, so I would look this up. I think Gary showed a diagram of this, somebody did, was the trust triangle, which is a Harvard thing. I don't know if anybody's seen that, but check out the trust triangle, which has these points of logic, authenticity, and empathy. And when you have friction with a client or have an argument or with any relationship you have, it's normally one of those three things in the trust triangle that you're not doing well. So it's either a logic thing, it's an authenticity thing, or it's an empathy thing. Most important factors for buyers, they always go over this every year, was number one was honest and trustworthy. Number two, which was a very high percentage, it was 21% of consumers said buyers said the most important factors were honest and trustworthiness. That was number one, which was 21%. Experience was 18%. So if you're newer and you don't have a high level of experience, think of what your value proposition is and lean on the company for the company's level of experience, or work with another agent that has a high level of experience within the company. Reputation was third, and that was 15%. So basically the point is 54%, I think that's what that adds up to, was about trust in some regard, honest and trustworthiness, experience, reputation. Let me see what other, if I have, and if you guys have anything else, chime in. I'm just going to go through a couple more notes before we do your implementations. Just going to ask you for a couple more things. Oh, here was a good one for those of you who are doing any online or lead gen. They were talking about the value, which was actually very surprising to a lot of people, of creating a form field where you're asking for contact information from those leads. So some people who do their Facebook ads with us don't do the lead capture page, like the lead capture information, and some do. Some people that do Google ads and things like that, they don't do lead capture forms. So asking the consumer for their information, some people think that conversion rate would go down. However, Google, I think it was Google that mentioned this, that the people, or it was somebody else, it was some data person, that by asking for contact information, if you have an online lead thing going, conversion actually went up with asking for more information. Now, whether that was because they thought there was more credibility or validity to whatever the ad was, I'm just letting you know. And we always tell you to lead capture, but sometimes people don't. And people think, well, they're not going to want to put in their contact information. If I do that, I'm not going to be able to, they're not even going to stay on my website, but it went up. So just know that. I want you to know that, so that I encourage you to use form fields and lead capture if you're doing anything that's online. I've got a lot, but I'm just going to go through and see if there's anything else really. Oh, okay. This was a good one that Gary said that was in a leadership session. So you might not have seen it as an agent if you're an agent, but he was saying, and this goes for you with your clients too, the most important thing you can do when you're meeting with your clients, you're doing a listing presentation, buyer consult, or just in general, as far as customer service, 3 things in this order: listen, learn, lead. Listen to them. So you have to ask questions, right, to listen. Learn from them. Take in the information that you're getting. Let that give you information to help you decide what is next, and that's going to be in their best interest, and then lead them, because that's what they're looking for you to do. But you can't do that out of order. It doesn't work out of order. So listen, learn, lead, and think about that when you're creating your client care, your customer experience. I'm just going to type that in the chat box. Pretty simple, but I thought very profound, which is like just anything that comes out of that guy's mouth. I would encourage you to watch, Dawn talked about it earlier, but the seven traps between you and financial wealth. I mean, that was just phenomenal. I know, Dawn, you watched the other one, which was the 9 things. So
Yes.
good.
Actually, I watched both of them.
Yes.
But I was just looking through the list a little while ago, and I don't see the 7 on there anymore for some reason.
I'm sure it'll pop back up, and I think I have the slides. I'll find out if it disappears.
Yeah, I downloaded the notes, but
Okay.
the audio video was awesome.
Okay, great. Yeah, so when you see it, hopefully they'll have them all up next week. Those were so good, so good. Okay, and then will it be on KW Connect, Adam? I don't know if they're going to share any of those on KW Connect. Maybe that one will. They might take some of them and put them on there. Definitely not before April, whenever those things go away and family reunion. Probably not before then. Okay, what else? So what I want to know is, number one, was there anybody that wanted to share takeaways, their top takeaways that has not shared yet? Just unmute, call out in case I miss your hand. Mary Ann?
Hello. I have my neighbor's rooster is going off again, so you will hear him.
Great.
So just FYI, there it went. So my top takeaways were a quote: "How you experienced 2020 or COVID, the COVID pandemic, will determine your 2021." That was a big deal for me because during that time, you know, there was a huge push for care calls and also building infrastructure, taking the time to build your business. So that was a really big quote for me. With regards to social media, I really enjoyed one of the pieces of advice that we got was to just be relatable. You know, oftentimes I find myself posting, oh, at a showing, oh, here's a listing. And then you have these awesome agents who are killing it on social media and just being real. Like they'll post, oh, I just tripped over X, you know, typical Sherry move, you know, and then people realize, well, you're human. You go through this stuff and you're a realtor at the same time. So I love that. And I'm going to be applying that to my social media. It actually encouraged me to get a TikTok. So we'll see what happens. Another thing was with our multiple offer situations that we're going through right now. One of the biggest nuggets for me with that was how to make your offer stand out with a listing agent. And one of the things they shared was send the listing agent a video. Hey, listing agent, you know, I just sent you my offer, you know, and kind of map out the things that they told you that would help make their lives easier. And it makes you stand out because it's a video. It's not a text. It's not a phone call. And then the last thing was our database is a living and breathing thing. It should not ever stagnate. We should be pruning it. So I remember Gary, I think, was saying that, pruning it and also updating it. And it's okay to have a small database as long as you're making meaningful connections with those people. Those are my nuggets.
Those are great. Very cute video. I love that. Be careful what you say. Write it out first. Make sure you don't say anything that you're not supposed to. That's really great, though. Okay, and then I like the idea of how you experienced or what you did in 2020 is how you'll experience 2021. And a lot of that is mindset and activities. And like you said, care calls. Yeah, I mean, Chris Haig I always use Chris Haig as an example. I see him on here as such a great example of somebody who just did such a good job at adopting these care calls in 2020 and like started them and just has not stopped them and was just kept doing it and kept doing it and just is now seeing the results, has been seeing the results of those efforts. And on the flip side, agents who didn't do it that I've had come to me and say, these people bought properties. They've lost deals because they missed out on those opportunities because they didn't do their care calls. And these were people that they knew wanted to buy, and they bought without them because they weren't doing their care calls. So that's great. Okay, so now what I would like to do is in the last 10 minutes or so that we have is just go through, and now I want us to really focus on one thing. What is the one thing that you will either be implementing in the next, I'm going to say, let's just say 72 hours. Okay. So you got a few days to get this implemented, say by, what is today? Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So say by Monday morning, this is going to be implemented. Either you haven't implemented and you're going to, or you have implemented and it's working and from what you learned at family reunion and you're continuing on that path. I want one thing, action item. This is what you're going to do based on what you learned or what your takeaways were. So I'm going to go through the group and or what you heard. Those of you who weren't at family reunion, what you heard today that struck you, and what's the one thing you're going to do to move you forward. So Marianne, I'm going back to you because I'm just going to go in order here of how I see you on the screen. Oh wait, where did it now? I just stretched it out and you went away. All right, I'm going back and I'm going to start with. That's weird. Where did my other page go? My page disappeared. Okay. I'm going to go with Puna because she's now showing up as the first person on my screen. And then I'm going to ask whoever is not muted. Oh, okay. Puna, yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm certainly your newest agent. So my perspective is probably very different from everyone else's. What I got a lot, my background is hospitality. And so what I heard a lot, both during family reunion and today, is really hospitality based, which is nice because it's familiar. I think action items for me, I'm still kind of wrapping my head around everything and kind of really sinking my teeth in. And so continuing the database, getting familiar with all of the different platforms available. There's lots of trainings and videos. And so I'm just going to be continuing on that really this whole week.
Okay, so give me one thing of those you just mentioned, a few things that are, even if it's simple, just what does that mean between now and Monday? What is an action item you're going to actually do? What does that mean? Familiarizing.
Completing my contact loads.
Okay, finish uploading all your contacts into Command.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's a great one. Don. Oh, wait, you're muted. Are you on the phone? Is he on the phone with somebody else?
I was on the phone.
Oh, sorry. I saw you talking and I was like, is he talking?
We have an offer expiring at 5 and had this other issue. So I've had to get in touch with the broker.
Good job. Did you hear the question? The one thing you're going to implement?
One thing I'm going to do. Yeah. So our focus, of course, is being digital. So I'm going to try to figure out how I can improve our digital presence, overall experience, whether that be just through Facebook or Zooms. We're starting to do a lot more Zooms and working on a Zoom buyer and seller consultations so that we can just increase the overall experience.
Okay, so are you currently doing Zoom buyer and listing consultations?
Not formally. We meet with people via Zoom, but I don't really have a PowerPoint or a presentation to do along with that talk. So right now it's really just like we were sitting down at a table at a restaurant. We're talking, forwarding, getting to know each other, and then I'll pull up MLS and we'll start going through and searching and starting the process. But I'd like to have one that's a little bit more formal. And
okay, so would that be creating a digital listing presentation?
Well, exactly. That's what I'm saying. But,
okay, so that's your task. I'm trying to get you to I want to get you to the actual thing you're going to do that's going to move you forward, right? So are you committed to that? Creating the digital listing presentation?
We're going to do buyers first, but yes.
Okay, creating the digital buyer consultation between now and Monday.
Right.
Getting that going. Love it.
Let's go Wednesday.
Okay, so you're going to start it though by Monday.
Yeah.
And you're going to finish it by Wednesday.
Yeah.
Okay, I love it. Jess. These are good, you guys, right? These are good implementation lists. Jess.
So we are planning on revamping our value proposition to our buyers and sellers and vendors. And this means we need to reinvent our listing presentations and our buyer presentations as well, and focusing more towards the customer and what they want.
Okay. So I'm
Again.
gonna do this. I'm gonna go through, because I'm going through the whole list. What I want, I'm giving you guys a heads up. What I want you to just tell me. No, I'm stopping now because I'm seeing the time. What is the one thing, and what are you doing between now and Monday? Like what are you actually doing as an action item that you're gonna finish? I'm forcing you to keep it concise and make a decision. Even if it's small, it doesn't have to be a huge thing. It just needs to be one thing. So Jess, is it the consultation?
So Adam will do the listing part since he works mostly with sellers, and I will do the buyer part.
Awesome. Got it. Thank you. Teresa.
I'm gonna do a farming postcard. I have a cash buyer and I've been unable to find them a person, a house. And so I'm gonna do a farming postcard on the neighborhood they want with the specifics that they want.
Love it. So we're gonna get that out in the next few days. Postcard to find a property for these buyers. That's a great one. Anne.
I'm going to do like a newsletter or something to my past clients, because that's where I really lacked in my business. It's always going after new ones and the ones that are here and the listings that I've gotten, but that I do tend to forget about the old ones, which is not good.
Yeah.
And you lose listings that way, that when they come to sell, they forget about you too.
That's
and
right.
I want to get that implemented really this weekend.
Awesome.
Like a newsletter online or anything, something like that.
Create the
That's
newsletter
great.
for the past clients.
Yeah.
Great one. Thank you, Anne. Bonnie, are you able to chime in? I don't see on camera, so I'm not sure. Sometimes if people are on camera, I don't know where they are and what they're doing. But Bonnie, if you can chime in, what's your one thing?
Oh, hi.
Hi.
So I've just been working on, I've got these whiteboards in my office behind me, and I've divided them into listings, leads, listings, and leverage, because I find sometimes it's all gonna get mixed up in my head. And so now I have it in a visible place right there in my office. And I think that's gonna be very valuable to keep me focused.
So your implementation item is having these things, is creating these things that you're doing to have them in front of you.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So you already started implementing today while we were doing this. That's awesome.
Yeah, I was hammering on my wall. Thank you.
Thanks, Bonnie. And some of you, if you want to put it in the chat box too, you can do that as well, because some of you are doing that. Emily said more technology and better understanding of command. So I would just challenge you to pick what that means. If you're going to watch a video about how to do a specific thing in command, for example. Okay, Sam says do her smart plans, create your smart plans between now and then. That's awesome. What else? Does Andy, so Robert, what's yours?
I'm going to put out a Facebook ad. I've been playing with an advertisement that I have that's called Selling Safely During COVID, and I'm going to generate at least 50 leads from the mainland at $1.91 a lead, right? So I'm going to do that before Monday.
50 new leads from the tool, which you can totally do. I love it. That's great. Sarah says time blocker calendar next week. Huge. That is a great one, Sarah. Andy, Madrid is next. Sorry. And then I'll say Bemrose. Oops. Wait, Andy. I'm having a hard time. I don't know why I can't hear you. I see you and you're unmuted. I don't know. No, I can't hear you. It's so weird. I hear like background noise. Okay, I'm going to ask you, Andy M, to put in the chat box for now. And then Andy Bemrose, you're up.
Okay, I'm going to set up a Zoom call with my top 20%, and we're going to put them on a panel and get out and reach the middle and the new agents.
There you go. Zoom call. I love it. It's great. It's a good one. Thank you. Cheryl says, creating my new schedule for the month, time blocking my 10-4s, my daily 10-4s. So getting that in your calendar. Perfect. Tom, are you in a place you can say something?
Hey, I'm sorry. I'm sitting in open house right now and I had to mute you just for a little bit. They just walked out. But I think I caught enough of the, I'm kind of busy with open house, and I've got an off-market listing that's I'm about to get an offer on. So I'm doing that, but I really want to do have a little more of a social media presence, and would like to start with some Facebook ads. And I just know nothing about that because I'm very anti-social media. And so I'm going to find some. I think Robert's got some stuff on Facebook advertising. So I want to dig into that over the weekend.
So Robert, connect with Tom, give him one action item that's going to help him move him forward, getting that done.
Will do. I'll talk to you soon, Tom.
Thanks, Robert.
Michelle said, Rob Robinson says, we'll get my database and business plan uploaded. Great. Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Rob. Michelle, yes.
Aloha from the west side, everyone.
I was going to read yours, but yeah, tell us.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I thought I'd just chime in here.
Yep.
I've been very successful with generating these amazing leads through Facebook ads, and I have 528 buyer leads right now. And I'm currently working with 3. One is under contract, and it's a backup offer. So I'm really hoping to get the other 2 into contract. And then through those buyers generate either listing referrals for the mainland and or put out some more Facebook ads that are seller generated or seller generated focused, so that I can pick up more listings. So yeah, it's been going really well.
I love that. So tell me one thing that's going to help you, because you say follow up with the list of leads. What's the one thing you're going to do to increase your follow up, to help your follow up?
Time block and go into the shop's office.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I've been following up quite a bit. As soon as I get the lead, I'll call them or text them or email them.
You're so good at that part.
Thanks. So it really is about leads, listings, and leverage.
Yep.
And buyer leads turn into listing leads. Most of the buyers that are coming here do have something to sell.
Sell somewhere. That's a good point. So do the, so the time block, get that done by Monday.
Time blocking.
Thank you. That's great. Andy says, since the first of the year, I picked up 2 buyers and 2 sellers. One has already bought and the other's in escrow through Facebook, just hacking away at it. I'm going to develop a social media strategy. Perfect, Andy. So just put that on paper, your social media strategy by Monday. Just flesh it out, what that's going to look like. And then that's going to give you a map to follow. And then Crystal said, do the basics to generate a Facebook ad. So Crystal, if you need help, Robert Eichenberry or Latasha can help you get that done as well. Stacy V says, I'd like to do, are you just telling me that privately, or I don't know what that meant. It was just MREA Zoom calls, but I think that's good. Sure, we can do that for you by next week. Okay, who did I miss? Let's see. Keone, Brian, and Chris are our last, I think the last ones that have not given theirs yet. So let's get yours in the chat box or chime in. What's your one thing you're going to implement? Oh, I see Keone.
I'm here. Sorry, I was working with an agent. I was semi-listening, so if I stole anybody's idea that they already said, I apologize.
Okay.
A couple of things. I really liked the sessions Gary was on, because they talk about the company and the philosophy of the company. Yep. And that helps me when talking with new agents and agents that aren't with us. And just kind of how they see the economy going too. I like those sort of sessions. But as far as that, the one takeaway I took from those sessions was, Gary was talking about, and it was the leadership session.
Yeah.
And he says we wake up every day trying to help you, the agents, right, make the most amount of money, right? And so that's really our philosophy as management, is to make sure you guys are making money, right? And how do we do that? Many ways, right? Not only by being available, but thinking ahead to try to make things that work for you guys in our company, right? Make command easier, make the zip forms work easier. All that kind of stuff helps to making your business easier. Anyway, and making you more money. But the one I wrote down and I keep repeating was he who has the appointment determines the income, right? And that's been my belief since, since I've started real estate, right? It all comes from the appointment, right? We talk about lead generating, but lead generating and making the appointment are kind of the two, right? You get the name and number, then you find out, where they want to live, condo or house, bedrooms and baths, price, right? And then you make the appointment, right? He who has the appointment, and so you're determining your income by that.
So one thing that I hear as an action item for the agents, because we are an action item now, but we didn't get your takeaways. So that's great that we're getting your takeaways. I love that. Is that conversion. How do you, if you do have calls and conversations and you're not converting to an appointment, what skill do you need to develop to increase that conversion, right? So you can get the appointment.
Yeah, and it's usually the LP Mama, right, is what I just listed off, right? The where do you want to live, how price, and house, condo, and all that. If you have that, that's all on you now. You should have made that appointment, right? Because with all that stuff, you throw it in MLS, you come up with a list, you're off and running, and then you start eliminating as you go, right? So, I mean, it becomes that simple to me. Is if you have that information, why aren't you asking them, let's go see it? If they're on island, of course, right? If they're not, then you got to do the whole online thing that some of you do very successfully, by the way. But if they're here, why aren't you showing them property? That's how they're going to make a decision, right? If they can see it online, what do they need you for? They don't. They need you because they want to go see it, physically touch it, make sure their TV fits there and their couches fit there and whatever, right? I mean, that's why they go see it. So make the appointment. Don't be scared. They're going to tell you which one they like, and you write it up.
Yeah,
right?
I'm going to add too. So some people are making comments about what you're saying, which is great. So Stacy says ditto on that. Marianne had said she's going to finalize her list to farm to her neighborhoods for listings. Michelle says conversations matter. Adam says a good tool is to track how many dials, how many contacts, how many appointments. And this will gauge, so you have, because you have those conversion rates, right? Your dials to contacts, your contacts to appointments, your appointments to close, or you could even go to appointments to agreements to contracts to close, and how many dials and how much you need to do to get those appointments because your ratio up here. So I like that. Michelle Belch says, get leads, generate the lead, get the appointment, conversion to close. Awesome. Okay, let's see. So there's just two more people, I think. Oh, Michelle Mayers. And Michelle Mayers is in Seattle. I didn't see you before. What are you? Can you talk and give your number one thing you're going to implement? Where you go? I see you unmuting, but I can't hear you. I don't know if you're in a place you can talk. Let's keep trying to get you to unmute. But anyway, there's a Seattle contact for us, you guys. She's our agent and she's based out of Seattle. So you can put your contact information in the chat box. How about Brian McCourt or Chris? Okay, do you guys have anything, or did I miss anybody for what you're going to implement, your one thing?
Nothing from me, thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Brian. How about Chris? Do you have anything? I don't know if you can talk. Sometimes I don't know when you guys aren't on camera. Okay. Anything else, you guys, before we go? I think this was awesome. I took a lot of really good notes. I think helping create an implementation list, we can relate to a lot of what everybody's doing. So thank you for participating. This is as good as it can be, and we all make it. And Michelle's saying she's having technical difficulties. I'd love to connect and be in the business. I've been in the business 30 years and she's working on getting to Maui. So awesome, Michelle. Thank you. All right. Thanks you guys so much for your participation, and you guys rock. And I'm looking forward to seeing those implementation strategies coming into play by Monday. Okay. If you need an accountability partner, let somebody know. All right. Bye, you guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Learned a lot from all y'all.
Aloha. Bye.
Bye.